Okay, Tamworth people, you know nothing about my family at all, considering when my mother moved there in April 1989, okay, good luck losers, she moved there with her newly married second husband, Mark Rackley. Amanda Lee Fleming, my twin sister, and myself, Justin Mark Fleming, we're not related to Mark Rackley. Simple. Now, Anthony Wood, you rang a little cunt. So, what nationality? You messaged me through Scruff. I'm there going, we had this discussion in high school. Like when people are asking why I look so different to Amanda in my high school, I said it's because this is back when you guys used to tease me over the mole on my nose here. So, 1992, I said it's because of Dad's father. So, Anthony Wood messages me on Scruff, was that 2016? It says, what nationality are you? I'm like, I went to high school briefly with you and I moved back home to Sydney. And we already had the same discussion in high school. Mum's mother's side, there's French, Irish and English. Dad's father's always been said, could have been Italian. They're, working out because of where he was orphaned from. Okay? So it's always been said on the Fleming side of the family, could have been Italian, could have been Maltese, could have been Lebanese, could have been Greek, who knows? And so he's not Greek, for starters. He looks more Turkish than Greek. However, he does look more like where the name Fleming comes from, which is the Flanders area. It's Flemish, so Eastern European. That's the Flemish. It comes from where Belgium meets France. However, as you were told, Dad, who's a builder, Mark Ian Fleming, his father, Stanley Fleming, is not born in Australia. He's born overseas, and Edith Kavanagh raised him. Edith Kavanagh was an unmarried spinster. She did not adopt him. Okay? And why doesn't Amanda know any of this? Amanda doesn't know anything about our family on either side at all. At all. She doesn't know anything. She only knows what Mum tells her. Mum doesn't even know half the time because all Mum's interests are is you deadbeats. So the facts are, Lola May Keegan, who's my mum's mother, and her father, Reginald George Purdy, because that's my grandparents on mum's side, Lola May Keegan's mother is Mary Ann Sayer. Mary Ann Sayer's mother is Julia Ryan. Julia Ryan's mother is Bridget Dufresne. Bridget Dufresne was French. Matthew Ryan, or Matthew Joseph Ryan, was Irish. The father was Irish, the mother was French. That's on records. Now, if you'd ever sat with my pop, Reginald George Purdy, that is the most simplest bit of family history that you would know. Okay, because it was Reg that first told me. It was Pop before Nan ever brought it up, and Nan wasn't lying or joking or being smart, and this is not mental retarded scams that my mum and her sisters always do, which I think after having exacerbated PTSD because of my mother and her family and whatever bullshit's going on, enough's enough. These are the facts, and it's right there in the documents that Nan gave me years ago, before when she was moving, 20 years ago, when she was moving from Sydney, going up to her daughters. Okay, these are documented facts. Bridget Dufresne was French. Matthew Joseph Ryan was Irish. Their three daughters, which was Julia, May, and Annie, so Julia Sayer, May Goff, and Annie William Shawkner. I caught up with Annie's grandson, which is my nan's cousin, Gary Williams, at Margaret Keegan's funeral in 2003. Okay, Amanda wasn't there. Christy Childs wasn't there. Miriam Mihowski wasn't there. Robin Childs wasn't there. I was there with my grandmother Lola. My mother was there, but my nan wasn't talking to her. So we're not talking to her at the funeral. I drove my nan there, and I'm at the funeral. And the Mannings were doing it. It's my cousin Brian's mother. So my nan's nephew, who still lives in Leichhardt. And Nan goes, like, don't look now. It's like, what? Your mother's behind us. Oh, she's got more hide than Jessie, Justin, to turn up here. So it's Mum's auntie. And Nan's like, we're not talking to her. I'm like, okay. So Mum's like, Justin, come over. Nan's like, we're not talking to her. Justin, come over here. So Nan's cousin, who she adored, okay, so I'm talking to Gary Williams, okay, who lived in his grandmother's house, who actually got left his grandmother's house in Bellevue Hill. So my Nan's cousin grew up in Bellevue Hill. These are the facts. I never said my Nan did. I said her family did. There's a difference. My Nan grew up in Leichhardt. My Nan's family, my Nan's grandmother's 2 sisters are from Bellevue Hill. My Nan's uncle, so the one that we call Uncle Fred, okay, because his name originally was Frederick Goff because of May Goff, but then the other, so Julia Sayer, adopted him off her sister and he became Leo Patrick Sayer. Why do I know this? Okay, because of Lola, for starters. Lola, Uncle Fred, Pop, so Lola's Nan, Pop, which is Reg, Uncle Fred, Big Nan, which is Mary, because I sat with them, grew up with them, and listened to them. Okay, then this has all been confirmed, and if I ever wanted someone to back it up, I used to ring Sharon Newcomb, Mum's cousin. So, plus I've got the documents. This is the fact. So, if you wanted to know the family tree on Mum's side, it goes French, Irish, Julia. Julia's husband was English. They had Mary. So Mary Sayer. Mary's husband was Irish. They had Lola. Okay, so Lola May, my grandmother, Lola May Keegan. Her husband was, well, although there was a talk about Reginald George Purdy being French, because the name was French, they're actually from England. The P-U-R-D-Y. So again, that's my mother's side of the family. Okay, on my father's side, the ones that look German, for example, Frank Edward Hill. Okay, the one that looked Jewish, which is Ada Gray. That's my father, Mark Ian Fleming's grandparents. That's his mother, Ruby Jean Hill's parents. Okay, those all ethnic mixes are in my family. This is not personality disorder. This is stating a fact. Whether you like it or not, these are the facts that you need to accept because they are facts. They're facts. This is not, oh, he was saying it to joke or it was just a rumor. These are facts. Okay? The only thing we haven't got solid facts on is exactly what country Stanley Fleming came from. It's been thrown up in the air because Edith Kavanagh raised ethnic orphan boys, Italian and Maltese. Okay, so who knows? Okay, I know what Uncle George Hill, which is my Nan, Ruby Jean Hill, or Ruby Jean Fleming, her brother. I know what Nan told me. I know what her brother told me. And her brother told me this well before 2012, when Uncle George Hill stayed at my place in Surrey Hills on Cleveland Street with my father, Mark Ian Fleming. And I sat up talking. Then I rang Dad's sister, okay, Sharon Williams. Her maiden name's Fleming. And I said, this is what was said. Have we got documents to prove this? And she gave me a nice little booklet where she put all the documents together to prove most of this. To prove most of it. I said, I know that Pop's an orphan and raised by Edith, but have we got proof of everything else? So, yeah, so I got copies of those documents from my family members. Okay, I grew up with these family members. I grew up with these extended family members. Amanda, my twin sister, did not. She doesn't know a thing. Not who she's related to. The fact that she has Lebanese cousins on Dad's side because Christy Saruni's children are Lebanese. Okay, Jaden, Connor and Addison Saruni are mine and Amanda's second cousin. Okay, they are our Auntie Linda's grandchildren. Auntie Linda is Dad's younger sister. Linda Marion Fleming, who married Tony Pincham and had 3 girls. Carly, Christy, and Jessica. Now, Jessica, I remember, I used to hang around with her much more when she was with her Brazilian partner, and her daughter Lidiana, my second cousin, is part Brazilian. My first cousins on Mum's side, so Marianne Purdy, Mum's younger sister, she married Richard Mihowski, which is why Marianne Mihowski. Richard Mihowski's family are Russian and Polish, although his auntie Nadia is Macedonian and he's got Czech Republic and so forth. That family of Richards I actually grew up with since I was 4. My cousins, Bradley, Hayden and Luke Mihowski, are part Polish. I grew up with an ethnic mix, okay, an ethnic upbringing. Amanda and myself are born and raised in the suburbs of Sydney with city family members. There's no country, okay? Mum loves her bullshit. There's no country because Mum moved. We had horses in Sydney. Mum moved to Tamworth in April 1989. Dad's at Empire Bay. Dad's long-term partner when he divorced Mum was, what's the name, from Penrith, which was Annette Craven, who had a photography studio. Around 1993, Dad and Annette were separating. I don't know if he was separated or not before he started sleeping with Debbie Mackay. Debbie Mackay is Sky's mother, Dad's Sky's father. This is not too difficult, but because you're dumb, useless country people, I'm sick to death of you. I don't have memory issues or personality disorder. I'm sick to death. I thought you were the most, weird freaks. I don't know how to describe it. I barely lived there for 6 years. I wasn't bullied. You guys would just have issues, man. You have issues of being told that you're wrong because you're making up stories based on what you believe, based on your little tiny world in a country town. Okay? And you're wrong. And I don't know why my mum would ever want to move there around you people. Okay, I thought everything to do with you people is, oh my God, that's sinister. It's bad. But what do you mean that he's gay? What's gay? Like, you guys, you were just, you know what? I had good friends there, and the friends that I had there were great. They were very open-minded, theatre going like I am, artistic, brainy. But for that small group of people, there's a lot of fucking losers there. And it gets to a point where, you know, we keep going around these circles. You obviously can't accept information, and that's the problem. You people where my mum lives, you can't accept facts. I'm not saying this to, you know, chop and change and see one minute he loves us, next minute. No, I do. I love all the people that I was close to. Don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. All you people that I was close to up there for the 6 years I was there, don't get me wrong. I absolutely had the best time with you lot. Best time. Like, it's all there. I had the best time with you guys. When I was briefly there for 6 years, guys, I'm 47. I was briefly there for 6 years. I'm 47 years of age. Okay, in the scheme of things, we're talking about a hair fracture of time in my timeline. A hair fracture. And there was a majority of people, and it's repetitive when you keep asking the same. You didn't understand that we had horses in Sydney. And this is a comment I make where it's like, and this is not my high school. This is the deadbeats in the pony club. Where'd you keep them on the roof? Yes, we kept our horses on the roof. That's just ridiculous. Because they had never been to Sydney. They certainly didn't grow up in Sydney like I did. And they have a very, very close-minded view, which is exactly what my sister's husband had. Okay, very close-minded view of the world. And unfortunately, my sister's husband rubbed off on my sister. Which is like, you know, she really forgets where she's from, because we grew up in the 80s in the suburbs of Sydney with family members still living in the city. Or, I mean, Big Nan was still in the city. Uncle Fred, Pop, Reginald George Purdy's a city boy. Reggie George Purdy, when Mum was born in Darlinghurst, her parents still lived in Rozelle. These are simple facts that I would expect any person that says, oh, I know Justin, would be able to stand up and go, yeah, his grandfather's from Balmain, Rozelle. Third generation male there. Keith was there, Charles was there. I would expect this because that's that's who I am. Because you know how many generations my pop is from Balmain, Rozelle. You know my grandmother Lola's a Leichhardt girl. Her nephew still lives in Leichhardt. Okay? We're not country people. That's the lifestyle choice that my mother made. That's a big difference. My mother made that lifestyle choice. It doesn't suit me because it's not born in me. It was a lifestyle choice. She's born in Darlinghurst, and when she was first born, her parents were still living in Rozelle, Mansfield Street, Rozelle. Now, these are the nationalities, okay? I can explain to I'm blue in the face about, and I just joke around to people when they go, oh, because you look like you could have been this. I'm like, could have been. Like, the only DNA results that I've got to go on is Dad's sister. So Sharon Williams, okay, had her DNA done. So her DNA would show her parents, which is my grandparents. And it came back predominantly French and German. I'm like, well, Stanley's a bit too dark, considering he had very dark olive skin. And then it was, brought to me, but could have been just North Italian or those areas, Belgium, whatever. Like, there's dark, could have been. But I mean, Stanley did have really dark olive skin. It's listed on every document. He's not Caucasian, he's dark. So these are facts. Whether you like to choose it or to accept it or not, it doesn't make any difference, because whether you choose it or not doesn't change the fact that it is facts. And that's what you idiots don't understand. As sure as I am born in the suburbs of Sydney, I'm not going to put my birthday across on such and such date and year and then airlifted to the RPA intensive care. These are facts. Whether you accept it as facts or not, it doesn't change the fact that these are actual facts. Do you get it? The same as Amanda and myself started at St. Aidan's Roman Catholic School in 1984. And I don't understand how Amanda just blanks out of what she learns from school, because learning Latin is a pretty big thing when we started making our first Holy Communion. See, it was Father O'Grady and one of the nuns that was teaching our group, who was ready to make the first Holy Communion, Latin. And we went to a nunnery that made the Eucharist. We had to learn Latin. In Roman Catholic schooling, Latin was still taught. So was the translation of the Bible with the Old Testament and the New Testament, and so was the versions of your name, because the modern Christianity names is not what the biblical names were. So you get to learn what Justin was and Mark was, and different variations of what Mark would have been, and Peter, and so on and so forth. This is not personality disorder. This is part of education. So Latin, and I grew up in an ethnic area listening to, I can tell you what, I listened to the word Shamut a lot growing up. I think the same words used for Lebanese and Maltese, because it was the Zemets that used to always be in at Pops. Charlie Zemet and Simon Zemet and Julian Muscat and the Muscats from Penrith. The daughter's Julia Muscat and Joey Pace. Okay, another Maltese. And Laurie Gaimea, who lives in Bathurst. Laurie Gaimea remembers my grandparents. You see, because they're all from the suburbs of Sydney, and this is multiracial. I've just given you a big list of Maltese people that I grew up with, listening to other languages since a baby. Since a 4-year-old, I started learning other languages. This is not personality disorder. This is not some mentally retarded mental health thing. This is education. Then in 1992, started at Our Lady Rosary College. My French teacher, there's 2 French teachers there in Rosary College. Amanda, you didn't do French. You sucked up Miss Campbell's ass. I don't know how many times I got to tell you. Miss Campbell decided to bring Indonesian. There was no Indonesian before Miss Campbell. There was 2 French teachers that had a long curriculum of French, but that Miss Campbell, she was pushy. Okay? I never really liked her. You sucked up her ass, because you always do what Mum tells you to do, Amanda. This is why you haven't grown. My twin sister hasn't grown. She's just staying dormant because she just does what Mum tells her to do, and she hasn't grown and been herself. Where I've got my own interests and my own life. Here we go. So this is Miss Davis. This is as you see, that's my French teacher. Okay, I had her for 1992 and 1993. Miss Davies there was my French teacher. And if we look over here, my music teacher was the other French teacher. There was 2 French teachers here. And this is my music teacher, Miss Cray. But those 2, Miss Cray and Miss Davies, so this one, she's a French teacher. Okay. And Miss Davies here is a French teacher. I had this one for French, Miss Davies, and Miss Cray I had for music. Then I chose my electives for years 9 and 10, 1994, 1995. Okay, so these are facts. You don't want to accept the facts, well, it doesn't matter, it doesn't change it. Just because you don't believe it doesn't mean that it's not true. You see, they're facts that you can't change. Whether you believe it or not doesn't make any fucking difference. They're facts that you can't change. Exactly like I've always studied to be an artist, and let me show you something. I keep saying 1995, I started sitting down and really learning Italian. But in actual fact, it was the end of 1994 when I started working on my Year 10 major. And my Year 10 major was based on stucco and Italian and Florence and Rome and all the great. And I'll tell you what, this is so lucky that I've kept my Year 10 yearbook, because it's in my Year 10 yearbook, which backs me up to show that this is me right here, Justin Mark Fleming, and these are my 5 paintings based on Italy. This is when I sat down and started learning Italian. So you've made up stories that do not match any facts, because Italian I started learning, let's just stick with 1995, okay, for my Year 10 art major. Okay, so you're lying. You're not accepting the facts. These are facts that you cannot change whether you believe them or not. And that's the point. These are actually documented facts that you're saying you don't believe, yet these are documented. They're actually documented facts. And you can't change the fact that this is all documented. You don't believe it? Okay. That's called gaslighting abuse, because this is documented facts. They're all here documented. So with you gaslighting, you are causing abuse, and I want a legal team that's going to charge you for that abuse. Because this is actually documented facts. And you're trying to change documented facts. You're trying to rewrite history. It is documented. Okay, it's not Justin said. No, it is documented. These are documented facts that you can't change. Whether you believe it and accept it or not doesn't make a difference. It still is facts. What I've said is the truth, and it's documented. What you are doing is gaslighting abuse that's causing reckless endangerment to my health, and I want you charged for recklessly endangering my health.